Smile. Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, the Pulpwood Queen, and I'm reporting live from the University of Texas Health Hospital in Tyler, Texas. And I'm over here because my sister had some surgery and it wasn't time enough to get back home. And I'm staying with her anyway. So, she's down the hall. But this is the first time you've seen such an unglamorous background behind me because I have these wonderful little things behind me. But I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited that Mickey's here with us tonight. Mickey Dubrow was introduced to me by Robert Gwaltney because Robert was helping me host my book and film club, and I found out he was in a writers club, and we had him do one of our writers club, and we got to meet Jessica and Mickey. Jessica's here tonight too, and they're from Atlanta, Texas, and so they have this wonderful writers group, and they're authors from Atlanta, and I believe everybody here tonight will be at our 2023 Girlfriend Weekend, which is going to be outstanding. If you haven't seen the post, I just got word from Sandra King, that's Pat Conroy's widow. She will be in attendance. She's coming for Friday night only, but she'll be at the meet and greet, and I'm thrilled that she'll be there. She has another engagement that weekend, but we keep adding more and more people, so we're not over yet until I get the entire book list done, which will be done December 1st. Then I will be notifying, the authors that have been selected for the year, and they'll get the official stamp of approval. So right now, have any of you guys got your ballots yet for voting for Books of the Year?
No, ma'am, not yet.
Okay, well, I just sent it off to Paul, and Paul's going to be sending an email out to everybody to place your vote for Book of the Month, International Book of the Month, and Bonus Book of the Month. And if you have a favorite crossover teen or children's book from our Mama Cats Book Club or from our Cool Cats Book Club, you can write those in, because I've decided that all these authors that gave their time and everything for those younger people should be recognized too. So we will be having the ballots out probably this coming week, and you have until just after Thanksgiving to get your vote in. And it should be fairly simple, because by now you've read all the books and you can vote for yourself, just like you can vote for yourself if you're the president, for re-election, or the United States. So tonight, Mickey, we're going to begin by we're going to start out with talking a little bit about your background, and then I'm going to delve into talking about your book. So if you could just tell the audience a little bit about how you got started in writing and where did all this come into the picture. We want to hear your story, so tell us all about it.
Sure. Well, I started out wanting to be a cartoonist, and I did a cartoon strip when I was in college, but then later on I got into television, and for many, many years, I wrote television copy. I wrote promos, scripts of various kinds, but I never thought I could write a novel. But then when I became a freelance writer producer, I had a lot of free time because I didn't get hired right away. And I decided one day to fill the time by writing a novel, something I'd always wanted to do. And I wrote a crime novel, and it was called Burger City Blues, and it was terrible. I mean, it just stank. But I learned the process of writing by doing that. So I liked it so much, I wrote another one and another one and another one. And finally, around the fourth or fifth novel, I kind of started to get the hang of it.
Well, every author that I've ever interviewed in my 23 years of doing this book club has said the first book took so long because they had to learn the process. And wouldn't you agree with that? I totally agree. It took me 6 years to get my first book out, and it'll be even longer on the third book. So anyway, that's great. Now, I know you were a cartoonist. When did you start doing that? Because you are really good. When was the first time you started drawing people and and situations, and when can you remember? How far back can you go?
I think one of the first things I remember when I was about 4 or 5, we had a babysitter, and her boyfriend came over and he drew Mickey Mouse.
Oh,
And I didn't really care about Mickey Mouse. I was just amazed that he drew a cartoon character. So that inspired me to start drawing. I mean, I was probably drawing anyway, but it was just something I always liked to do. And I just drew and drew and drew and just that was it. It's just the same reason why someone picks up a guitar and keeps banging on it and won't stop. It's just
right.
something compels you to do that thing. So it was just drawing was something I enjoyed doing. So I did it all the time.
Well, you're very good at it. And he actually, I asked all the authors that I picked this past year to send signed book plates, and you also sent me those little, renderings. And I think they're absolutely lovely. I'm going to be bringing them to Girlfriend Weekend. So if anybody purchases your book at the weekend, they're going to get this stuff. So, and you can have your book personalized and all that stuff too. But I can remember when I was little, I spent a great deal of time outside, so I would draw clouds and bugs and things that I would see. And I was big on coloring, and I love color. So I think it's fascinating, the writing and the art process. Did you have anybody in your family that was an artist or a writer?
No. And I was the odd one. They were always like, we don't know where that comes from. Because the thing in my family was no one was a writer, no one was an artist, creative in any way. But the one thing we all shared was humor. And my parents, especially my father, if I make a joke, it was probably something I learned from him. And my mother was very funny too. They just really loved humor. One thing that would happen is like if there was a Marx Brothers film on TV, we had to watch it. It wasn't that you wanted to watch it. My father said, no, you have to watch this. And so I learned a lot of that, because he encouraged it.
Well, they were comic geniuses, and it's really interesting during this time of COVID that I've watched more comedians probably at this time of year, because I've seen every movie that's out there on all the streaming services, that I've gotten into watching comedy, and it's really changed since COVID. It's in some ways it's become more politically correct. In another way, it's become more enlightening because people are telling more personal stories, especially if they're not from this country or they're from another religion, or they've come into the United States as their parents were immigrants, and then they are Americans, but yet people still perceive it. Oh my God,
Well, no, we lost Kathy.
I lost it. It fell off my Kleenex box. But they they perceive that you look like you're from India, so therefore why don't you go home? Well, I was born in Houston, Texas, so we have got to. I hopefully people will start learning by reading and looking at art forms, whether it's comedy or drawing or everything. Maybe there's some things that we can garner from the experience of just keeping an open mind about things. And I've never seen more openness than with Jamie Ford, who's one of my authors that we picked from the very beginning when nobody knew who he was. Now just had a 3 big 00000 book deal for his next 3 books because of the many lives of Fong Wong. But his books are from his experience of having an American mother and then having an Asian father. So we're all learning. And now let's get to your book. Your book is something else. It's so different, American Judas. It's so different. I don't dare to even put it in a genre. And I don't like to be put in a box myself, Mickey. I think every book should be a standalone I think we tried women's fiction. Well, they don't say men's fiction. They don't say, I think we need to be a little bit more book gender fluid. A book, you know what I'm saying? They're saying, I think we need to understand that a book could fit into, if you were going to put your book in a genre, what ones would you put it in?
A political satire and dystopian. Dystopian thriller is what I like to say.
I love that. I love that. And I know a lot of authors, they'll say, oh, well, this book is Gothic, or this book is Southern Gothic, or this book is, I've read a lot of their Southern Gothic books weren't even set in the South. So I think it's fascinating that you did this. Now, where did you come up with the idea for American Judas?
Well, I'd been thinking about it for a long time because I saw how the country was kind of moving in that direction. And it was very much that way, especially in Chattanooga, where I grew up. It was very that kind of atmosphere. So I wanted to comment on it. And also I imagine it's like, well, if we did go in that direction that some people wanted to go, what would it be like? And how practical would that be? And I think that's always like when you're world building a dystopian story, you start thinking, well, how will the world change? And I just want to, this is an odd sort of side note. Another dystopian thriller I was thinking of was The Walking Dead. And a part in the first episode where the main character, Rick, is riding his horse down 7585, which is the main freeway in Atlanta, downtown Atlanta, and there's all these cars just sitting there and he's riding past them, and I was like, that's like every day in Atlanta.
I've driven there. The last time I drove there like that, it was raining and it was even worse. But yeah, Atlanta, this is why I live in a rural part of East Texas, because the only traffic jam I see is the deer crossing the road. So I don't know how you all do it every single day. It's just I used to live in San Diego and had to go to Los Angeles for sales conferences. And I would just dread going into Los Angeles because you always got let loose at 3 o'clock on Friday. You don't ever get on a freeway in California at 3 o'clock on Friday. You might as well go shopping, go out to dinner, and head home like after 7. And you'll get home in the same amount of time. But I think it took me like, I don't know, it was a 2-hour drive and it took me like 6. And I just said, oh no, I can't live here anymore. So I moved to Texas. But anyway, your story is very unique and it's got some unique characters. And did your family, were they reading the book along with you as you were writing it, or did they read it at the end?
The only one who read it as it was going along was Jessica.
Your wife.
She was the only one. My family didn't see it till after it was out. And because it's not that anything against them, they just would not have been interested. They would have had to see the whole thing done and they go, oh, it's actually a book, and not just Mickey babbling to us again about some idea he had. But I had a thing where I would write a chapter and I would make Jessica listen to me read it to her. And
Jessica, you're a wonderful wife. Thank you.
well, she's
work all the time.
Yeah, we read each other's works to each other all the time. We're sort of an ongoing writing group between ourselves. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah, she reads to me, I read to her.
I remember Pat Conroy wrote upstairs and Cassandra wrote down. And when they get done with the chapter, he put one at the bottom of the steps and then she put one at the top. And that's what they would do too. And that really touched me because I think it's really important that people that are in a relationship really support each other, because really when you support one another, it really makes life, well, first of all, you make a bigger impact when you're working together. And second of all, it's also so encouraging. to have someone else's insight that you trust. So good for both of you. That's really amazing. And so you've got this book out, and it's been out for a little while. It's got a great cover, and I just, when I got a copy of it, I thought this book is so timely for what's going on in the United States right now. We're so worried about being right in our way of thinking that nobody cares that damages are being done. Is it better to be right in everything you do and lose everybody you love? Or is it better just to accept each other's differences? So that's my philosophy on it. I'm a little quirky myself, as you can tell. So probably why I live alone with 3 cats. But anyway, I do know that that's really important. And so did your family read it after you finished it? Did they? Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, my father had a great comment that he told me. He is convinced that a Hollywood producer is going to read it someday and turn it into a mini series. But then he added, he goes, "You'll be dead by then, but it will happen."
You know what? That's okay, because your work will live on. And it is my biggest desire. Every book I read visually like a movie, because I'm a big movie buff. I mean, the past 2 nights, my friend and I, who's a Pulpwood queen, we've been having double feature nights, and we watched 4 books of mine that have gone to film, and one of them is going to be added to our list this year. But we watched The Glass Castle, we watched Same Kind of Different as Me, we watched The Man in the Moon, Reese Witherspoon's first movie, and When the Crawdad Sings. And when she left today, she said, "Kathy, I'm not a movie person. I'm a reader." But she goes, I'll never forget this weekend as long as I live, because it was all about the story. And I go, yes, that's what it's all about to me too. So, and it's all about your story this week, Mickey. And I just want to know more about you. I mean, what's your writing process? How much are you writing every day?
Well, I don't work in television anymore, so I have a lot more time to write. So I write every day now. And the way I saw it is I'm finally in a position where I can write. And when I worked full time, I wrote at night, I wrote weekends, and I wrote holidays. I would go, I mean, that was what I would do. I would go on writing retreats by myself or with my wife. And I thought, if I have the opportunity to write on a full-time basis, I'm going to do it. And I just feel like this is an opportunity I don't want to lose. So I don't have a specific time that I write. It's more like I have to find specific times not to write. Because if it's up to me, I'll sit there at the desk all day, and I do screw off. I do procrastinate a lot. But in between all that procrastination and surfing, I am writing, and it's a happy obsession for me now. I just, I look at an empty page and I'm like, oh man, all the cool things I can do. I can just make up stuff, and some of it will be good and some of it will be bad, but I know I'm going to have a good time.
It's amazing. And would you say, this is my little theory on this, that if you could be anything else, would you? I mean, if you really think about it, do the stories drive you? You'd be writing them even if you didn't make a dime? Or what would you do? What would you do?
Well, I'm not making a dime now, so
Hello,
or barely a dime. So yes, I would. So yes, I do hope that it will pay off, and that that they will sell. But at the same time, no, I love writing it, and I love promoting it, and I love talking about it. So yeah, I would be doing it anyway.
Well, we're really looking forward to having you at Girlfriend Weekend and getting everybody to know you and getting to see your cartoons. They're amazing. And also, to me, you can read a book by yourself and you get an impression. but because you're bringing your own experiences and education into the read. But when you meet with other people that are various backgrounds and degrees and perspectives, they'll always bring up something I never would have thought of at all. And then when you bring the author into the picture, my favorite moments are when a person will ask an author, because I'm going to open it up here in a minute for asking questions or comments. Somebody will always go at a book club meeting. So what did you mean by this when you did this in the book? And the author will just go blank for a minute and they go, I don't even remember writing that. What was it again? Can you read it to me? Oh yeah. I don't know where that came from. I just, and they're just like, well, I thought there was a little bit more hidden meaning behind it. Nope. I just thought that sounded good and I put it in there. And I always laugh because not every single word is analyzed to the point of where it came from, why it was placed there, unless you're Robert Gwaltney, because Robert is such a word person. And the way there's nobody that writes like Robert, and there's nobody that writes like you, Mickey. You guys have each found your own voice. And Jeffrey, I've got enough of your book. I'm almost finished. I know you've got quite a story too, and I've still got to read Jessica's, so I've got to see what she's about. But I love that you're such a big support to each other. So I am going to open it up to everybody. So if you have a comment or a question or something that you want to ask Mickey or mention about him, of course, Jessica, we want you to tell all. What is Mickey really like at home? Let's begin with you.
Oh, I didn't realize I was going to do the inside scoop here. I do have an author question for him. He has much more fun writing than I do. He really he just enjoys it. We argue all the time about whether or not writing is fun. I don't think it's fun. But yeah, Mickey's great. We've been together 27 years.
Wow, that's
And
amazing.
we met in television. We met when we both worked at a extremely large television network located here in Atlanta, whose name will not be mentioned, although it was,
I know.
Yeah.
I think I probably figured it out. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not the name of it anymore anyway. Yeah, Mickey's great. And he writes prodigiously and has ideas all the time. And I don't know where they come from. It's fabulous and fun. And sometimes he'll be talking about something and I go, wait, which book is this now? Which which? So yeah, sometimes he has to ground me in that. So
it's funny that you would say to me that you don't think writing is fun, because I had a professor tell me I had taken something out of the kiln. I'm an art major, and I was so excited about it because it came out way better than I ever thought. It was a raku piece, and I go, oh my God, this is the funnest thing I've ever done in my life. I want to do this in my life forever. And I remember the professor came around the corner and she goes, art is not fun. Art is work. And I go, it may be work to you, which I respect, but for me, if it isn't fun, I'm at the age, I'm 66. I don't want to do it, And when she walked off, all my artist friends, they go, we think art's fun too. And I said, but it just goes to show you that not everybody looks at their own craft the same way. And that's why it's so great to get all these different perspectives. So, what's the favorite thing can you think of anything that he's written that just really got you? Any specific thing?
He's written some great promos, some great television promos. And we have storyboards for them in the bathroom downstairs. But American Judas is brilliant. American Judas is brilliant. American Judas is prescient. And American Judas deserves a lot of readership. And I have a question, an authorial question for my husband that I will ask on the screen as opposed to walking down the hall, which is, I'm in the living room, he's in his office, which is, what is the draw for readers in dystopian fiction? I mean, this is something we've talked about over the dinner table, right? Why do people turn to dystopian fiction?
Go ahead. Let's hear it.
Well,
Nikki?
yeah, my idea was that I think why people like dystopian fiction is sort of like speculation, but also it's the idea that no matter how bad things are, they could be worse. And going back to zombies, it's like, traffic may be bad, but at least,
Right. But there could be zombies.
yes, the country could be in this terrible, situation, but it could be worse. And I think it's kind of a way to think about, because I do think we think of doomsday scenarios. So it's kind of a way to look them over and go, well, life's not that bad.
I have to tell you that I just always hang on the edge of my seat on films that are done like this. I always think about Will Smith. What was the one movie where he was locked up and he could only go out during the day? What was the name of that movie?
I Am Legend.
I Am Legend. I was on the edge of my couch the whole time. I couldn't wait to see what was going to happen. But I like them. I think we like to be a little bit afraid.
Sure.
I think everybody gets a adrenaline rush from being scared. But it's also, we know we can turn the TV off or the volume down. So we kind of had control of the situation or shut the book. So, but that's interesting, that's a very interesting question. And do you have any readers tell you, or have you ever had anybody say anything or in reviews or anything about why they, wanted to read it, or?
Some people actually told me that they had been thinking about the same subject I was talking about, and that they wanted to read it for that reason. And some people didn't want to read it because of that reason. Said, I grew up with this and I don't want to think about it. And I respected that as well. But most people was like, yeah, I was curious to see where you were going to go with this. And
It's true, because a lot of times I find books so hilarious, and then people go, that was awful. That was the most horrible book I ever read. And I'm going, I thought it was funny. I don't know if you've ever read in Clyde Edgerton, but he wrote a book about where he was, the main character was the only person that, he had one great aunt living that lived in assisted living, and he'd go to visit her, and she just wanted to drive her car one more time. And so he's teaching her how to, she can barely see over the steering wheel. And she gets away from him in this big underground parking lot, and she's driving in circles, and he's chasing her, trying to get her to stop so he can get in the car, because she's like really up there. But there were lots of episodes like that. And I read it at a nursing home. And I got to tell you this story. And I was with one of my Pulpwood queens. I used to go to the nursing home and read, and I was reading this story, and all the little wheelchairs were in a big U, and they were all listening. And some people, are so debilitated they couldn't hold their heads up. But all of a sudden, I hear this one woman raise her head up, and she was my former next door neighbor. She goes, enough of this shit. She goes, I live this every day. I don't want to hear any damn more word. And all these little shoulders in these wheelchairs were just going, they were all laughing silently up and down. And all the staff in the back, we just lost it. And I thought it was one of the best readings I'd ever had, just because this woman was very vocal about her opinion. And they're still talking about it, I'm sure, at this assisted living. But isn't it funny how you can have one perception about it, and then people can have another one? And I think it's really just about the way you're raised, what part of the country you're from, your education. But get outside your comfort zone a little bit and open your minds up to listening to somebody else's story. How many people say to you, but this isn't true, this is a lie? And you go, well, it's fiction.
I did run into that where what I ran into is a couple of people said, oh, it wouldn't happen like that. And I was like, well, hopefully it won't happen at all. I mean, I just
Right.
don't novel. It's like, I wasn't writing it because I wanted it to happen. It's like, why would you think that at all? But yeah, I mean, I had a few people trying to start an argument, and I'm like, you can think, write your version. This is just how I saw it through. And there were a few things people brought up. I was like, yeah, I didn't think of that, but that's interesting. I think also I have to make a comment about the humor, because there was a lot of humor in the book.
Yeah.
and which was a way to make, the medicine go down, a little bit of sugar. But I was talking to a book club, and they were asking me questions, and someone said, well, do you have any questions for us? Which I thought was an interesting, technique thing to ask me. And I said, yeah, what did you think of the humor? And there was just dead silence. And finally someone said, humor, can you give us an example?
They didn't think it was funny?
At all. And I brought up
Oh
some of the
my
jokes,
God.
and they said, we just thought that was world building. We didn't think that was humor. And I got to thinking about, I was like, they have a point. It was both. It was world building through humor, but they only saw the world building. And I thought that was also, it was a good little, puncture my ego to say, I didn't think it was funny at all. So, you just never know.
And I had the exact opposite happen. They saw the original cover of my book, and I go, did you read my book? And they go, yes, it was so funny. And I don't think there's anything funny in my book at all. I think it's a story about somebody who grew up with dysfunctional parents and who struggled their whole life, and reading saved me and books saved me. And so I didn't see it that way, but everybody thinks it's a funny book. And I go, well, if it didn't have a cover on it, what would you think of it? So I'm kind of curious, for all new people, I go, forget the cover, just read the book. But a cover is so important to get the right message. But until publishers recognize to work with the author on the cover, there are so many covers that are so wrong. And I know you've seen them. I always think of one in particular that was set in East Texas, but they had a girl in wildflowers, but they were obviously from England. The wildflower, the flowers you see in England. And I thought, no, you wouldn't see those type of flowers in East Texas unless it was like an arboretum or something where they're doing an English garden. And it drives me crazy. Or the little girl has red pigtails, but in real life, she is brown. I think, how can they get it so wrong? But they do all the time, but they don't read the book. So you've got some other people here, and I'd love to know, Robert, what's it like being in this writers group with Mickey and Jessica?
So Jessica's has a separate writing group.
I'm not, yeah. I'm not
okay, hang on.
But it's Mickey and a fellow named Jeff Blocker, who's sort of our facilitator, and a very talented poet, Marissa McNamara. And we've been writing together. Actually, when Mickey came on board, he was just getting ready for American Judas to go out into the world.
Oh.
So Mickey is a great deal of fun. We all have a very irreverent senses of humor, so we would never want anyone to hear the things we talk about.
Right.
Robert is filthy. Just to let you know, behind the scenes, he is filthy.
Like a sailor.
I knew it.
The way I carry on.
He would make a sailor blush.
We need an example.
It was, when she stops recording.
Oh my God, you're so funny.
So Mickey is a wonderful critique partner. He is very thoughtful in the feedback that he gives them. What I admire about Mickey's writing is the humor, the pacing, and there's a sparedness, but there's such but there's such depth to the writing. We had an opportunity recently to read some drafts of his of a memoir that I don't know if he's going to do anything with it or not, but it's beautifully done in one of the most unusual ways I think I've ever experienced a memoir. So
Wow.
he's wonderful to work with. It's been a pleasure, and I've learned a great deal from him.
Thanks, Mickey, for cluing me in about Robert.
You didn't know? Oh my God.
I had
No.
a clue. No, I knew. I know you're teasing. So anyway, and so how do you guys know Jeffrey too? How do you guys, or does just you, Robert?
Well, yeah. So I know Jeffrey through social media, and we've become friends the last couple of months, and we Zoom on occasion. And he lives in DC, and he's going to be coming for a book launch at Foxtel in January. So I'm going to get to enter into conversation with him.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, we're really excited because I'm going to get to be with all of you in Amelia Island. And Robert and I actually just met for the first time at Fairhope, Alabama, and we had a great time. And I want to tell you, Robert, that Rakesh is so popular. I just did a couple more shows and he's gone. And if you don't know who Rakesh is, he's one of my paintings that goes everywhere, wait a minute, everywhere with me. And anyway, every time I take him to any of the art show, he's flying off the table or exhibit or whatever. It's just funny.
So Kathy, so one of the things that Jessica was discussing with Mickey is just how prolific he is with his ideas. And he's always, at the end of almost every session, will say, I had this idea. And so he'll share it with us. And Mickey, I want you to talk a little bit about the exciting year that you have ahead of you. Because some authors only have one book to worry about, but you have two.
Well, it's interesting because when I first joined the book club, writing group, I was just starting one of the novels that's coming out called Sadie Dreams of Coney Island. And it's an urban fantasy with the hero is a rabbi who does magic based on forbidden Jewish books. And but the thing is, the original title was the Accursed Ophicomen, and the group pointed out that did not work. Just as like not many people know this, but the original title for Robert's book was The Stink Bug Tree, and we convinced them to change it to Cicada. And just so you know. That's how we help each other.
Things would have gone quite differently if it hadn't been for Mickey.
It'd been a completely different book.
On that one. Well, that would have been a different work of art, Robert, that I gave.
It would have been.
I have a few of the dried stink bugs, but
so Kathy, what I want to talk about the Sadie book.
Yes.
And there's such a tenderness to that book. Really sort of, I think it's one of the, I loved American Judas, but Sadie is such a different sort of book. And it's just, I don't know. I love the way that, and I've not seen the final version, but it's so lovely. And I can't wait for the world to have the opportunity to read that book.
I just sent Kathy an ARC, but yeah, it's an interest. It was a interesting take on. I'd always wanted to do a Jewish magic book because there's such a history of folk Jewish magic that goes back to the Middle Ages, and I never realized how deep it was. I mean, they had werewolves and spells and amulets and ghost and the golem. We all know the golem story and the Dybbuk story, but there's all this other stuff, and the rabbis doing all this amazing scary stuff, and they borrowed from different cultures. But I was like, well, Harry Potter, and I know I shouldn't bring him up, she just took a lot of all that old English magic and put it into her characters. Where's our Harry Potter Steen? Where's our Doctor Strange, Berg? Where's our Magic Johnson Berg? I mean, it just was like, so I was just determined to bring a character like that. And also to talk about people who lived on the Lower East Side of New York, where my grandparents came through there on their way to Chattanooga. So
I've always wanted to go to Coney Island because I've gone to New York and Brooklyn and all over, but I've never been to Coney Island. That's a bucket list thing to do because I watched too many. And then Alice Hoffman has things set there, and beaches, the little characters from Iris Rainer Dart's book, went to Coney Island, but lots of movies have things about it. I can't wait to read the book. And then you're working on another one too, right?
Yes. It's also coming out next year with Brother Mockingbird, who I met through you. But it's called Always Agnes, and it's a time travel novel, science fiction, and it's about a girl named Agnes who invents a time machine and goes back to when her mother was 16 to stop her mother from becoming a teenage mother, because she feels like that ruined her mother's life. Because you know how
But was she the product of the teenage mother?
is the product, and you know
Oh
how
my
teenagers blame everything on themselves. She feels like, her mother suffered and ended up dying because of her. So she thinks she's saving the mother, but
Right.
all she's doing is perpetuating a time loop that
Right.
just keeps going and going and going. There's some things you just can't change.
That's right. Oh, I love time travel. I love them, love them. So I can't wait to read both of them, and I will be diving in, reading this before December 1st. So this is very exciting. And is there anything else in the works? Have you got, that's a lot right there, but anything else you want to tell the audience? Because this is all being recorded for the Pulpwood Queen channel. So anything that you need to get out there, this is the chance to have it up there for perpetuity. So, what do you
What
think?
the heck? I'll talk about this anyway. Jessica and I are working on a novel together. It's
Oh,
in
wow.
progress. It's called Ghost Tour Mystery.
Ghost
And
Tour Mystery.
And it's about a couple who are on a ghost tour in St. Augustine. And one of the ghosts they talk about is a man in a murder mystery, and that he was part of a love triangle. And then the ghost appears to this couple, and they think it's someone dressed up as a ghost, and says, "That's not how I died at all. They always get it wrong, and y'all need to get it right so that justice will be served." And the next thing you know, this poor couple gets stuck back in time trying to solve this murder mystery.
Ooh. And is it going to be a contemporary novel or set in the past?
No, it'll be like two people today who get sent to the past. Sort of like, Outlander, but Outlander meets Murder, She Wrote. I don't know, it's something like
Oh,
that.
it just sounds great. It sounds like it'd be a great series too. So, well, good for you. So you're doing this collaboration. That's do you guys ever sleep?
Always, a lot.
Really? Oh, that's amazing. I'm so excited for you. But I always like to leave a little time at the end of our session to let everybody tell what's going on. That's authors that's here. So anybody else want to jump in and talk about, since Jeffrey's brand new to the Pulpwood Queen Book Club Reading Nation, Jeffrey, tell us what's going on with you and your new book.
I would love to, but I did have a question for Mickey, if I
Sure.
may, really quickly.
Yeah.
So something you said earlier, Jessica reads your work and she reads yours. I'm curious, that statement reminded me of something that Stephen King wrote in one of my favorite writing books. I think it's called On Writing.
I'm writing.
For his wife, he said, she is his audience. And I know that now that you said that you're writing something together, my question is, who do you write for?
Wow.
Mainly me. I know that sounds weird, but I ran into this when I was writing for television. I was trying to write for the creative director, because he was the one who would approve it, or she, whoever it was.
Right.
And I found that when I tried to please someone else, it never worked. But if it entertained me, then I knew it was going, then my scripts finally started to sell. So I realized that if it entertains me, it'll probably entertain someone else. So I know it sounds, self-centered, but
No.
it's kind of like if it kind of sparks me, then I know it hopefully will spark someone else.
Well, we spend so much time on our craft that I think it has to please the person who's doing it. It's just like with any type of art, whether you're a painter or a dancer, if your own competition, you're your own competition, you want to do better than the last time. So that makes sense to me. How does Jessica feel about that?
How do I feel about what?
Well, he said he writes, you're doing this collaboration, but he's writing for himself. Are you writing for you?
I write for myself. Yeah. I've written 3 books, working on a 4th, and then this collaboration is the 5th. And my audience is me. I write to figure out what I need to figure out. And I write to tell a story that I need to hear for myself. And if it resonates with me, it resonates with someone else. And the same thing with this collaboration. I mean, Mickey and I there's two characters in the book, a husband and a wife, and he writes the husband part and I write the wife part. So I'm writing the way I see that marriage and the way I see that couple handling the murder mystery. So yeah,
Well,
I write for myself.
You guys have been together 27 years. I think you probably got it figured out, don't you think?
Yeah, I hope so.
And a book to write.
That's
No, I mean,
really great.
one thing I always kind of remind myself is that I know nothing. I don't know what works or what doesn't work. I'm just lucky and I just hang on tight.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to reading all that you both are writing together and everything. So I know, are you out there doing any book touring right now or just full-time writing?
No book. Well, the new books haven't come out, so no, I haven't been doing any book tour stuff. So
Well, you'll be starting out when you come to Girlfriend Weekend, because we're really pumped about, and to have 2 more books to follow, it'll be great. And if they're ready before January, let me know so I can let the bookseller who's going to be selling the books for us know too. And I know, Robert, you're going everywhere. Every time I turn around, you're with another person, a group of people. If anybody, you should write a book on how to do a marketing book tour promotion, because you, for a first-time author, have set the standard. It's amazing what all of you done, Robert. It's just fantastic.
Thank you.
He is
Well,
a wonder.
I don't know what I don't know still, and it's been a learning experience, but it's been a
Well,
good. I'm grateful for it.
if you don't know for this first book, I hate to see what you're going to do when you get to the 3rd or 4th. You're going to blow us all away. But it's amazing to watch. And I feel like, I really saw it as you were, in the baby stages, before the baby was born, because I didn't even know Robert was an author when he joined the book club. And then lo and behold, and then explosion. And it's such a great book. So we love the cicada tree, and it's the stink bug tree. I'm going to be laughing about that all night, Mickey. That's just my kind of humor. And anyway, you'd be wearing a stink bug pin or a stink bug hat pin. Like you gave me. Oh my God.
It would be like a scratch and sniff pen.
What was that?
what a different book that would have been.
What a
It would have
different
been
book
quite a
that been.
different one, Mickey.
Well, there's another bug that could have been even worse. So I'm going to leave it at that. Now, Jeffrey, you've
Yes.
got Red Clay Susie. And, I've almost finished this book. I've just got the manuscript, but we're very excited that you're coming to Girlfriend Weekend. And yes, you are going to be added to the list. So tell us what your big plans are for this book.
So this book, I wrote this book really to, I think of it as, it's a manual for people who have lived their lives on the outside like I have my entire life, people who have had a rough time of it. I hope that it sends a message, an entertaining message, that there's a place for you in this world. So my hope is that it will get into the hands of, say, young people who could benefit from reading it. And
You know what? When I was reading it, my thought was, I understand that, but I thought this book is also for people who do not understand people that have alternative lifestyles. And I think when you read it, you see the humanness of all this world needs to know, is that if we just love one another and we're all doing the best that we can, I think people are going to find it. It's going to be good. I think you're on the road. And so you've got this book done. Have you started doing book tour plans or anything like that? Or
yeah, got quite a bit lined up. I actually just this afternoon confirmed a date with Malaprops.
Good. That's a great bookstore.
I'll be in Atlanta with Robert at Foxtails in January. I'm going to be here in DC at Politics and Prose and Kramer Books, Busboys and Poets in Lost City, with you in Florida.
Yay, it'll be exciting.
I'm so excited about that.
You You have no idea. I've been locked up in that cabin in Texas for 2.5 years, and I'm just not getting out. I am so excited about it. If everybody doesn't come, they're crazy, because it's going to be the best one ever. And I know Adriana Trigiani and all Casey Cowers, everybody that's coming on board is going to make it the best. And so many of us have not met in person in so long that it's like a big book family reunion. And we do have a lot of fun. This is not like any book festival you go to. Robert, can you attest to that?
Well, so, I've only had the opportunity to do the virtual,
Oh
but
my God, that's right.
right. I've not had the opportunity to experience a girlfriend.
And you saw how much fun. I was showing Margie Dilday, my Pulpwood queen here, the picture of me when I was dressed as the, William, what was his name? William, the actor with the pencil thin mustache. How I came to, she goes, "That is not you." And I go, "Yes, it was." And I did it in like 5 minutes. And it was so funny because, Robert, you were just precious that night. We had a good time. But we try to make it fun. We have lots of costume times where we dress up. Friday night will be our meet and greet. It's going to be a Bollywood theme. We're close from India. We've got lots of surprises. Saturday nights are all white. Costume ball where you dance by the light of the silvery moon. So it's got to be moonlit, whatever you wear has got to have the light of the moon. And then Sunday night is our awards presentation, which is the Pulpwood Timber Guy version of the Oscars. But we tell everybody, get the costumes from your closet, make something up. I had a group of girls come one year all dressed in bed sheets with trash cans on their head, and they lit them up, and they were these fairy queens, and you would have never known they were bed sheets. But you can do a lot of things when you use your imagination. And I think we as adults lose our sense of play. And I'm all about playing, dress up, and having fun, and making books and reading and watching films and sharing my author story. The most entertaining festival in the world. And we are the only one international book festival in the world, book club festival in the world. And so get ready. We're going to have a lot of fun. If you guys have not subscribed to the Pulpwood Queen Party Line to Girlfriend Weekend page, that is the page where I'm going to be posting updates. And we're going to have the Sunday before Girlfriend Weekend, all the authors out there, a dress rehearsal, so that we can kind of go through and make sure everybody can get online, because we're going to Zoom besides having it live. We're going to be doing both. I have a film crew coming in from Orlando to film, and we may be doing another documentary. We have a full light, sound, and music team coming in from Texas that was sponsored by one of my Charleston Pulpwood queens, Kathleen Varn. Sponsored that. And so that's the first time I've ever had somebody reach out to me and say, "Let me pay for something." And I was kind of blown away. And she goes, "You don't have to tell people who it is." And I go, "Yes, I am. She's one of our authors, and she said she wanted to do this." So it's going to be amazing, y'all. And we've got a lot of surprises. So get ready. Tell all your friends to come. And when we have the book club meeting, I'm telling everybody, invite your family and friends, because Anju Gatani had 50 members of her family and friends come to her book club night from all over the world. And it set a precedent on how many people saw it. But right now, Robert, our #1 video on my Pulpwood Queen channel was with you, me, and Tracy for the film RRR. We've had over 6,000 views.
It's great.
And almost all male, and 70% of them were from India. So we are really becoming an international book club, and we're starting a chapter in India. We are starting a chapter in Shreveport, and we've got several others in the works as people are now coming back together and meeting in person. And I'm going to be traveling the country trying to get people to start back up with their book club meetings and joining us Tuesday night. And the book and film clubs are really picking up. This next month, we'll be watching The Matador. Matador stars Pierce Brosnan and Greg Kinnear. It won at the Sundance Film Festival. It's the most delightful, kind of dark comedy. You'd love it, Mickey. You've got to
I've
watch The
seen it.
Matador. And I saw it, it was either on Pluto or is there something called Voodoo or it's one of those. I'll let everybody know, but
Voodoo.
it's Voodoo. Is it Voodoo? I don't know, but I think it was maybe on Pluto. I'd never even done Pluto or whatever, but I watched it and somebody recommended it to me and everybody has to watch it. So here we go. So let's all join hands. Let's get together. Let's tell the world we have the best book club in the world, and let's get everybody reading and writing. And that way they'll know that reading is the most entertaining thing in the world. And I can't thank you all enough for joining me at the hospital and for this book club meeting and hanging with me through all the crazy times I've had this past year, but it's going to get better. I don't see a dystopian future for the Pulpwood Queens. I see all bright lights, big cities. So we'll see you soon. I'll be downloading this and putting it up on our channel by hopefully tomorrow morning. So you all take care. Mickey, any last words to share with our listening audience about you? Because we just love your book and it is brilliant.
Yeah, buy it. Buy the book.
Buy it and give it for presents to all your friends. And
It makes a great Christmas gift.
It makes a great Christmas Hanukkah gift. Christmas gift. You're so. It makes a great. It makes a great gift for anyone at any time. So thank you all. Read all these authors' books, and they will all be there. My bookseller is Main Street Reads out of Summerville, South Carolina, South Carolina, near Charleston. Sherry Staunch will be providing the books. Do not call her because she said she would get with me. I've got her the list of who's coming and we'll be going over it. She cannot order your books from Ingram. To all the authors out there, you'll have to bring them with you or make arrangements with her. So we will get back with you. Join the Pulpwood Queens party line to Girlfriend Weekend and you'll get updates. And in the meantime, read, everybody. Read Mickey's book. And thank you all for joining me. Good night from East Texas.
Congratulations, Mickey.
Thank
Yay,
you.
Mickey. Hey, Mickey, he's so fine. Remember that one? All right. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.